Moving on to the Solidarity People Before Profit, Deputy Richard by Barrett.
Taoiseach, you're acting as if the rampage and plunder by cuckoo funds, vulture funds, investment vehicles, terms that are too polite in my opinion, they should all just be called bloodsuckers, but that as if all of this is some sort of isolated incident or inadvertent mistake that you're now going to rectify. Now, why don't you admit the truth? When you were Minister for Transport in the Fine Gael Labour government, Michael Noonan met between 2013 and 2014, and his officials from the Department of Finance had 65 meetings with vulture funds where they invited them in to commence the rampage. And in a very deliberate policy, NAMA was told to sell off, which they subsequently did, more than 40 billion worth of land and property assets to these bloodsuckers, and now they've moved on to buying up new estates as well. And the consequence of that is they are pricing ordinary working people almost entirely out of the market to buy their own homes. We have an extraordinary situation, I mean really one that beggars belief, that the situation is so bad that the Minister for Housing is describing affordable housing as €450,000 or €400,000, when you would need an income in excess of 90 or indeed in excess of 100,000 to be able to afford the affordable houses. Never mind the houses that these people are providing at full market price. We have tents littering the city. As a result, we have extortionate rents being charged by these same entities in my area, no less than €2,000 a month, up to €3,000 and €3,500. This is a result of a direct, deliberate and indeed ideological, to use your favourite word, policy of Fine Gael and Fianna Fáil, facilitating, incentivising and encouraging these bloodsuckers. But I want to ask you about the next chapter of all of this, the Land Development Agency Bill. Because it is bad enough you have let these people rampage and plunder the private housing sector, whether it's for purchase or whether it's for rental, but with the Land Development Agency, you are now going to let them rampage and plunder through the entire public land bank. You are going to invite them in to do the same thing they've done in the private housing market to the public land bank, the one thing that could actually help us address this crisis and actually deliver public and affordable housing to rent and to purchase is by doing it ourselves on our own land bank. But far from doing that, you are going to invite them in now to plunder that land bank with the Land Development Agency Bill. I beg you, Taoiseach, stop it. Stop the madness.
Thank you, Deputy.
And stop it starting next week with abandoning your plans on the Land Development Agency.
Thanks very much, Deputy. I think 10 years ago we were in a very different situation. 10 years ago there were no homes being built in Ireland at all, and there was no property moving at all. And the policy solutions that might be required 10 years ago may not be the same as we require now, and that may change again. So I think going back to that period 10 years ago really misunderstands the situation that we faced then, when no homes were being built and no property was moving, and all of the consequences that arrived from that. Again, as I mentioned in my reply to Deputy Shortall, the average price of a home changing hands last year in Ireland was €270,000. The affordable schemes will be pitching around that figure or lower. You pick the figure of 400 or 450,000, but that's the top end in a particular area. And I think it's misleading to make out somehow that all, most or even many of the affordable housing scheme homes will be priced in that range. In relation to the Land Development Agency, the purpose of the Land Development Agency is to be a major state intervention in the housing market, using land, public land and private land, and buying up parts of land where necessary to access that land and developing it for a mix of housing, social, affordable and private for purchase. It's a similar model that we had with the IDA, for example, in developing industrial parks, which they were then able to use to entice investment and bring about job creation. And that's the model that we're pursuing, and I think it's a good one.
Taoiseach, first of all, you see, 10 years ago is important, because some of us stood up in this House at the time and begged you not to sell off the NAMA portfolio, but instead to use it for social and affordable housing. And had you listened, we wouldn't have the crisis that we face now. And I am now appealing to you not to do the same with the Land Development Agency. And you see, when you say 450 is the top end, 450,000 in Dublin, Dunleary, Galway and Cork. These are not small places. These are the epicentres of the housing crisis. And 450,000 or 400,000 or 350,000 is not affordable in anybody's language for the vast majority of workers. And how could affordable be different in different areas anyway? If it's affordable, it's based on people's income. It's not based on the area they live in, so why are there different caps in different areas? Because the developers in those areas said to you, under no circumstances are you to be selling houses as affordable houses for 200,000 or 300,000 if we're selling them for 400,000 and 500,000 on the open market. You're dancing to the tune of the developers, and the result is affordable housing will not be affordable even on public land, which you are now going to let these vultures, cuckoos and bloodsuckers plunder.
Deputy, it's great rhetoric, but there's very little reality behind that. It's been the case since time began that houses and apartments cost different amounts in different places. There are places in the country and in Dublin and in the world where there's a higher demand for housing and where there's a lower demand for housing. And there are places where there isn't public land, and the land cost obviously impacts on the price of affordable housing. And it's not that affordable housing will only be built on public land. It will also require the acquisition of land in some cases and maybe built on private land as well. Just going back to the NAMA portfolio, again, not mentioned by the Deputy, and it's the crucial point that he leaves out. And why would somebody leave the crucial point out of their argument? The crucial point about the NAMA portfolio and the NAMA properties and the NAMA land is that was all held against borrowings. So in order to pay down those borrowings, the land was sold off. If the land had not been sold off, those borrowings would have fallen onto the taxpayer, onto the exchequer, onto the public balance sheet.
You'd be generating revenue
would have
for
to be serviced at the cost of public services or higher taxes for ordinary people.